Chapter 1. In the filth of a dark hut, in the village of Obi the cannibal, upon the banks of the Udago, Esteban Miranda squatted upon his haunches and gnawed upon the remnants of a half-cooked fish. About his neck was an iron slave collar from which a few feet of rusty chain ran to a stout post set deep in the ground near the low entranceway that led upon the village street not far from the hut of Obi himself. Illustration. The village of Obi. For a year Esteban Miranda had been chained thus, like a dog, and like a dog he sometimes crawled through the low doorway of his kennel and basked in the sun outside. 2 diversions had he, and only 2. One was the persistent idea that he was Tarzan of the apes, whom he had impersonated for so long and with such growing success that, like the good actor he was, he had come not only to act the part, but to live it, to be it. He was, as far as he was concerned, Tarzan of the apes. There was no other, and he was Tarzan of the apes to Obi, too. But the village witch doctor still insisted that he was the river devil and as such, one to propitiate rather than to anger. It had been this difference of opinion between the chief and the witch doctor that had kept Esteban Miranda from the fleshpots of the village, for Obi had wanted to eat him, thinking him his old enemy the ape-man, but the witch doctor had aroused the superstitious fears of the villagers by half convincing them that their prisoner was the river devil masquerading as Tarzan, and, as such, dire disaster would descend upon the village were he harmed. The result of this difference between Obi and the witch doctor had been to preserve the life of the Spaniard until the truth of one claim or the other was proved. If Esteban died a natural death he was Tarzan, the mortal, and Obi the chief was vindicated. If he lived on forever, or mysteriously disappeared, the claim of the witch doctor would be accepted as gospel. After he had learned their language and thus come to a realization of the accident of fate that had guided his destiny by so narrow a margin from the cooking pots of the cannibals, he was less eager to proclaim himself Tarzan of the apes. Instead he let drop mysterious suggestions that he was, indeed, none other than the river devil. The witch doctor was delighted, and everyone was fooled except Obi, who was old and wise and did not believe in river devils, and the witch doctor who was old and wise and did not believe in them either, but realized that they were excellent things for his parishioners to believe in. Esteban Miranda's other diversion, aside from secretly believing himself Tarzan, consisted in gloating over the bag of diamonds that Grasky the Russian had stolen from the ape-man, and that had fallen into the Spaniard's hands after he had murdered Grasky, the same bag of diamonds that the old man had handed to Tarzan in the vaults beneath the Tower of Diamonds, in the Valley of the Palace of Diamonds, when he had rescued the Gamangani of the valley from the tyrannical oppression of the Bulgani. For hours at a time Esteban Miranda sat in the dim light of his dirty kennel counting and fondling the brilliant stones. 1,000 times had he weighed each one in an appraising palm, computing its value and translating it into such pleasures of the flesh as great wealth might buy for him in the capitals of the world. Mired in his own filth, feeding upon rotted scraps tossed to him by unclean hands, he yet possessed the wealth of a Croesus, and it was as Croesus he lived in his imaginings. His dismal hut changed into the pomp and circumstance of a palace by the scintillant gleams of the precious stones. At the sound of each approaching footstep he would hastily hide his fabulous fortune in the wretched loincloth that was his only garment, and once again become a prisoner in a cannibal hut. And now, after a year of solitary confinement, came a third diversion, in the form of Aha, the daughter of Camis the witch doctor. Aha was 14, comely and curious. For a year now she had watched the mysterious prisoner from a distance until, at last, familiarity had overcome her fears and one day she approached him as he lay in the sun outside his hut. Esteban, who had been watching her half-timorous advance, smiled encouragingly. He had not a friend among the villagers. If he could make but one, his lot would be much the easier and freedom a step nearer. At last Aha came to a halt a few steps from him. She was a child, ignorant and a savage, but she was a woman-child, and Esteban Miranda knew women. "I have been in the village of the Chief Ob for a year," he said haltingly, in the laboriously acquired language of his captors, "but never before did I guess that its walls held one so beautiful as you. What is your name?" Aha was pleased. She smiled broadly. "I am Aha," she told him. "My father is Camis the witch doctor." It was Esteban who was pleased now. Fate, after rebuffing him for long, was at last kind. She had sent him one who, with cultivation, might prove a flower of hope indeed. "Why have you never come to see me before?" asked Esteban. "I was afraid," replied Aha simply. "Why?" "I was afraid," she hesitated. "Afraid that I was the river devil and would harm you?" demanded the Spaniard, smiling. "Yes," she said. "Listen," whispered Esteban, "but tell no one. I am the river devil, but I shall not harm you." "If you are the river devil, why then do you remain chained to a stake?" inquired Aha. "Why do you not change yourself to something else and return to the river?" "You wonder about that, do you?" asked Miranda, sparring for time that he might concoct a plausible answer. "It is not only Aha who wonders," said the girl. "Many others have asked the same question of late. Obi asked it first and there was none to explain. Obi says that you are Tarzan, the enemy of Obi and his people, but my father Camis says that you are the river devil, and that if you wanted to get away you would change yourself into a snake and crawl through the iron collar that is about your neck. And the people wonder why you do not, and many of them are commencing to believe that you are not the river devil at all." "Come closer, beautiful Ah," whispered Miranda, "that no other ears than yours may hear what I am about to tell you." The girl came a little closer and leaned toward him where he squatted upon the ground. "I am indeed the river devil," said Esteban, "and I come and go as I wish. At night, when the village sleeps, I am wandering through the waters of the Ugago, but always I come back again. I am waiting, Aha, to try the people of the village of Obi, that I may know which are my friends and which my enemies. Already have I learned that Obi is no friend of mine, and I am not sure of Camis. Had Camis been a good friend he would have brought me fine food and beer to drink. I could go when I pleased, but I wait to see if there be one in the village of Obi who will set me free, thus may I learn which is my best friend. Should there be such a one, Aha, fortune would smile upon him always, his every wish would be granted and he would live to a great age, for he would have nothing to fear from the river devil, who would help him in all his undertakings. But listen, Aha, tell no one what I have told you. I shall wait a little longer, and then if there be no such friend in the village of Obi I shall return to my father and mother, the Ugago, and destroy the people of Obi. Not one shall remain alive." The girl drew away, terrified. It was evident that she was much impressed. "Do not be afraid," he reassured her. "I shall not harm you." "But if you destroy all the people?" she demanded. "Then, of course," he said, "I cannot help you, but let us hope that someone comes and sets me free so that I shall know that I have at least one good friend here. Now run along, Aha, and remember that you must tell no one what I have told you." She moved off a short distance and then returned. "When will you destroy the village?"